Hello, everyone. It has been so motherfucking long. I don't even remember the last time. Actually, if I go and check my Buzzsprout and see when the last time I uploaded anything was, I can totally figure it out. And I honestly don't want to check just because it's kind of ironic. Because the first episode of this season was all about just doing it. And it was so funny because I was convinced, even after doing the podcast, I rewatched it and I was like, wow, I am so motivated to just get this shit back on track. And then what happened? I didn't do anything. Welcome to Breaking Down the Breakdown. This is after the breakdown. This whole season, we are discussing everything that happens after the breakdown. But it's very interesting turn of events. Something I didn't anticipate. What happens if after the breakdown, you have another breakdown? So, here I am trying to rebrand, trying to do all this like, I kind of really want to focus on XYZ this season. Well, you know what? We'll just go back to the basics. We're going to go back to the root of everything. And we can just get right onto that point with today's topic. We have spoken about this multiple times on this podcast with different people. I personally don't think I've actually been able to really voice out how I feel about this topic. Now, today we are talking about self-love. And there are many definitions of self-love. And I wanted to talk about this today because all this time I had thought that I knew what self-love was for myself. I always see it in other people. I always see it in how people move and how they dictate their lives. I'm sure that a lot of us, we kind of look at people and we're like, yeah, they truly love themselves. And we always wonder, we sit here and we wonder, how come that doesn't come easy for us? And let me tell you something right now. For those of you who are able to recognize that you don't love yourselves, for those of you who are able to recognize that this is something that you want in the future, that this is something you want to work for and attain, I just want to say congratulations, because you're actually ahead of the majority of people who are pretty much in the same situation as you. And let me explain why. I was in that boat. I was in the group of people who thought that they had self-love, who thought that they exhibited self-love. It gets very confusing, gets very muddled, because for a lot of us, we view it as, let me give you an example. For myself, personally, I had always thought that being confident in what I'm doing, that being able to enjoy time alone, being able to say, I'm going to go and take myself out to dinner, or being able to give advice to other people because I have so much love to give. I had always thought that was a sign of me being able to love myself. I think the biggest misconception about self-love that I had was the confidence part. Little did I know that the confidence part of it never actually came from myself. What came from myself was a sort of arrogance. If we've all heard of the term faking it until you make it. And that's exactly what I did. That's what I did with my confidence, with my, quote unquote, self-love. And it was the very thing that had truly undone so many of my relationships. And I never realized that. And this is the danger of getting yourself involved with another individual without realizing that you actually don't love yourself. It sounds very harsh. You care about yourself. You kind of like yourself. And, I feel like these are the bare minimum for staying alive. Unfortunately, you don't love yourself. I know. You're probably sitting there going, how the fuck do you know this shit? You don't know me. You're right. I don't know you. But I do know one thing. I have spoken to enough people. I have spoken to a lot of people, being a streamer, doing this podcast, being on social media. I've had multiple conversations with people of all kinds. And I can always tell those who are in need of some self-love. And that's not shade to any of these people. Truly, it's not that. It's about acknowledging that, hey, you and I, maybe we can do this together. Or, being able to say, hey, I'm so proud of you that you're on this journey of self-discovery, and hopefully you find love along the way for yourself. Because a lot of us, me included, one of my symptoms for me not loving myself is my entitlement. A lot of us are able to shift this entitlement. I just did quotes for those of you who are not watching the video companionship of this. Have you ever met people who, I don't want to say blame others, because blaming is completely different, right? But who feel like they are entitled to certain things just because X, Y, and Z. And this usually involves other people. That has happened to me so many times in all of my relationships, whether it be friendship, whether it be professional, whether it be love, right? But for me, the well that it poisons the most is the one which holds all of the water for the love that I have to give, or for the love that I know. And it hurts myself, not just myself, but obviously it hurts other people as well who have been involved with me romantically, because I never knew this. We grow up, and through media formats, we learn a variation of what love looks like. And, we always see the bad side. We always see the good side. There's dramatic reenactments of certain things. And watching that, a lot of us can either deduce that this is like not the love I want, or this is exactly the love that I want. But what the media failed to capture are the steps in order to get to that healthy kind of love that they're able to show. Movies don't have enough time to explain a character's development with their self-love before being able to share that love with another partner who also has experienced and is practicing self-love. These are things that I wish, moving forward, the media platforms can really touch up on, because I hate for more people to be going through what we're going through right now. Some of us are very lucky, right? Some of us grew up in great environment, around great people, right? Maybe every now and then they've had their run-ins with heartbreak and, a little bit of bad stuff, a little bit here and there. But there are a lot of us who grew up in traumatic situations, traumatic environments. And, our flight or fight gets triggered, right? And instead of taking the time during our developmental years, during our formative years, instead of taking the time to truly get to know ourselves and learn to love ourselves, we now have this added obstacle of figuring out why we are feeling some type of way. And I say some type of way because I want to be vague and I want to generalize this because everybody's trauma looks different. An example would be for me. My parents abandoned me when I was young, and I never thought that would affect me at all because I still grew up with my grandparents who loved me very dearly, until they also had to leave for another country for a better life. And I understood it at that time. What was mind-boggling to me were that these events, as I was growing up as a kid, I understood why they had to happen. I had a great understanding of why this was going on, why that was going on. Not understanding how the mind and our emotions truly work. Despite knowing what was at hand. And I didn't realize this until maybe a year ago. I had abandonment issues that started showing up, starting in high school. I mean, that's when our emotions really, like our hormones just start to kick in, right? A lot of us start doing drugs, getting into sex, or like just trigger warning for all of you. There are people who end up harming themselves. There are some who truly, truly want to do it because they don't want to be here. And there are some who are doing it for attention. I was one of those people. I would cut myself. I never knew it was for attention. When I would do it to myself, I had always thought it's because there is this pain inside that I couldn't quite get rid of. And by doing something else, by inflicting physical pain on myself, momentarily it does feel better. Oh, and an added perk was people see it and people ask me how I am. These are things I never knew came as a package deal with being abandoned as a child. And I wish I had gone to therapy at that young of an age. I wish I was able to afford it then, but single mom, 2 kids, we were scraping the bottom of the barrel, couldn't afford it. And why I'm saying I wish I had known it at that time was because I could have saved some people that I had met along the way. Amazing people, beautiful people, fantastic, just nice, just really, really full of light kinds of people that I had been involved with and that I had seemed to poison. Not realizing I was emotionally abusive because I didn't know how to react when things didn't go my way. Because nothing went my way. So when things started going my way, I thought, this was it. This is finally it. Instead of being able to figure things out myself, to get myself out of situations, to turn to myself and lean on myself, I saw these people as my saviors because of the kind of euphoric feeling, that happiness that they had brought into my life. And this is one of the things that media, really played a big part on, right? We watch all of these movies where somebody's so miserable, this person comes into their lives and they're whole. I just need that right one and everything will fall into place. Wrong! Fucking wrong, That's not how it works. It takes time and it takes work and it takes a lot of effort on both parties, but especially for that person who has experienced such a damaging journey throughout. This was a necessary backdrop to self-love because I wanted to explain how my experiences were when it comes to that. Because I know a lot of us actually experienced what I experienced. And for those of you who are listening right now who never thought that this was you, maybe this can be a wake-up call. Maybe it's time to, I don't want to say revisit old relationships in which you had, inadvertently hurt other people because of your traumatic responses. But if you're still sitting here, despite all of your experiences, it doesn't matter how old you are, right? I always believe that obviously the older you are, the more experiences you may have. I say may, right? Some of us, like me, have only been in 2 relationships, like serious ones, right? But the more experiences you have, if you're still sitting there and you're still blaming other people for why things aren't going your way, if you're still sitting there and you're still not holding yourself accountable for certain things that goes wrong, because remember, right, you can't fully take it all on yourself, but you have to have some sort of responsibility, some sense of responsibility. I have met so many people who has not or does not want to take any. They come to me about their problems with their relationships, and they're always the good guy. And, not going to name names, not that you guys know them, but true story, I have had an instance where I had 2 friends who were dating. I heard one side, and I decided to go to the other friend just to make sure, like that. And that other friend goes, why are you talking to them? And I said, why? You're both my friends. Yeah, but I told you what they did to me. Yeah, but this is a 2-way street. Like it's a friendship between the 2 of you. I don't love you more than the other person. If you're hurting, they might be hurting too. No, you're picking sides. I don't like that. Just don't talk to me. It's that reaction where I'm just kind of like, hold on. Back then I didn't know what it was. Back then I really thought it was choosing sides. Then I was fooled into believing that I was me being messy and it was me being nosy, right? But then recently something clicked in my head. People like this exist. And these people are the kinds of people who wants to be able to manipulate the story into something that only they can come out of unscathed. These are people who also need to learn self-love. It is attached to their thought that if people find out that they had a hand in something going wrong, that people are not going to love them anymore. And they don't want that. They want to control that narrative so that they can always be seen in a certain light. See, the lack of self-love does not pick, right? You can be the absolute best person in the world and you still don't have it. You can be the absolute worst person in the world and you still don't have it. But I wanted to talk about that today because personally, I am going through something that is very, we'll leave it at that. It's been a very tough time. And I notice that whenever things get tough on my end, not just with this specific situation I find myself in, but in the past, I tend to stop my life from moving forward. I take a pause, I disappear. I try to tell myself I'm going to come back as the bigger person. I'm going to come back and I'm a different human being. I'm going to be so much better and I'm going to show these people. They're going to look at me and they're going to say, wow, good for you. Already right there. Why am I doing this for other people? I may say things like, oh, it's okay, I don't really need people's approval. I may say things like, oh, fuck people's opinions. I don't give a fuck. You clearly fucking do, my friend. If you are trying to make a grand entrance after something happening to you so that everybody would notice, guess what? It's because you want people to praise you. For those of you who have this kind of mentality right now, Ask yourselves, what would it take for me to do this for me? What would it take for me to realize that the change that I'm looking for is not, or not necessarily has to be a change that everybody else can see? That the change I'm looking for has to be something that I can recognize as something that I can look back and compare to today and be like, oh my God, I'm so glad I'm not that person anymore. I have a really bad habit of really shitting on myself. Not like that. But when things don't go my way, all of a sudden I am public enemy number one. All of a sudden I am just so undesirable. Nobody deserves what I put them through. I don't deserve anybody's love. I'm better off dead. And I ask myself, why is this the automatic response that I have? I can choose to be kind to myself. I can choose to say, it sucks. It hurts. But I'm still great. And I have people who love me. And I have a bright future ahead of me, even though I can't really see that right now. And I can pick myself back up when I'm ready. Easier said than done, for sure. But why is my automatic response, fuck it, fuck me, I fucked up again, I can't do this anymore, it hurts too much, I don't want to deal with anything or anyone, goodbye. I don't actually want to disappear. Life is too short. I am afraid of death. That's number one. I'm afraid of death. I don't want to die. But then I realized it's because I want attention. I want someone, quote unquote, the right one, to look at me and tell me that I'm fine and that I am really, really deserving of love. Isn't that what all of these people around me just told me? Yes. So how come I don't believe any of these people and it has to be a specific person or it has to be a specific scenario? Why do I have to win the lottery in order for me to realize I can be successful? It's that. It's right there. A lot of us, we fail to catch it. And we start looking for solutions to these problems, thinking that the problem is X, Y, and Z, not necessarily the problem is us. I had to discuss this right away when I realized it, because I was like, holy fucking shit. I have been putting myself through this cycle for 2 decades now. It's the same old thing since high school. Things don't go my way. That on its own, I use as a confirmation of, wow, I'm an idiot. I don't deserve this. I get into a super depressive state, affecting everyone around me. Then when there's a fallout from that whole thing, I feel even worse, and I hit rock bottom, and then I tell myself, I can't be like this. I need to get myself back up. That's right. Insecurities kick in and start to say, well, I'm going to be better than everybody. Start taking copious amounts of selfies. Let my presence be known. And all of a sudden, when my head gets big and I start to feel so arrogant, everything is right in the world again. It is so toxic. It is so unhealthy. We need to recognize that some of our habits are so motherfucking toxic. And we are the ones preventing ourselves from truly loving ourselves, from truly finding that self-love that we need and that we deserve. It is a lot to unpack. It is a lot to unlearn. But when are we going to start? We need to feel uncomfortable before we can even sort anything out. And this is one of the moments for me where it's like, am I really going to talk about this on stream, or am I really going to talk about this on my podcast? Because I feel like a hypocrite. Well, guess fucking what? I felt like a hypocrite for my entire life. I feel like an imposter. Look at me. I'm a streamer. Oh, but all my streamer friends are partners now and getting all these views. Oh, right. Maybe I shouldn't stream anymore then. Look at me. I do podcasts. Oh, but my friend who also does a podcast just had a book deal and has millions of downloads on her podcast now. Shout out to Angel, by the way. Fantastic. Fantastic person. She used to play in a band that would also play with us, and she gives fantastic advice. She is I believe she's a psychologist now, and she did a podcast, and she did a book, and it was amazing, fantastic. Like, I fucking love it all. It's as if, here I go again, comparing myself. And I know it's not just me who compares themselves. We can't seem to celebrate small wins because we see them as small. We can't just see them as wins. Yesterday, I had a stream. Shout out to Mimi, Meowly Music on Twitch. Brought her community to me. Huge number of people came and watched. I was so happy. It was a moment that I never thought would come again. And then immediately it was, well, I need other people just so I can be watched. What kind of a streamer am I? And this is one of those moments where for me, I actually recognized what I was doing again. And I decided to just keep on going because I wasn't going to let those thoughts defeat me anymore. This is the same thing that a lot of people go through, albeit different situations. And this is one of those moments where if these are things that keep on happening to you, you gotta stop looking outside for the problems and the solutions to these problems, because all you have to do is look inwards. That sounds really scary, but you just really have to look at yourself and your past and your patterns and your habits. You have to look for how many red flags you can find and start your own amusement park. Watch out, Six Flags, because all my flags are fucking red. Like, this is what you need to do. We need to start unlearning things that we had picked up along the way because of our interactions with others, or because of how we were brought up, or just because we have mental health disorders. As somebody who has a OCD, everybody knows this. It makes it that much harder for me to love myself. Because the moment I set foot on this journey, the moment that I start doing it, all the intrusive thoughts start rushing back in. And I am not allowed to take meds for it, but that's not an excuse. I still want to get better, and I still want to do it. And I hope that for those of you who are listening right now, and especially for those of you who have mental health disorders yourselves, I know how hard it is. And I know at certain times we feel like there's no choice. But we always have a choice. Every day we choose to get up out of bed, don't we? We can take it a little bit further on days where we feel like we have enough energy. And maybe we can then start looking for ways to love ourselves. Very important. Why is it important? Because if you can't even love yourself, who the fuck gonna love you? I'm kidding. A lot of people can still love you if you don't love yourself. The problem with you not being in love with yourself and loving yourself when you find people who love you is that you will inadvertently push them away. Because they will see how you treat yourself. And it's hard. I have seen people do that where I have so much love for them, but they do not know how to love themselves. And so they will never be able to appreciate the love that everyone is giving to them. And that is a heartbreaking thing to watch. And I speak for myself too. You know, a lot of people on stream or on social media, they always, whenever I post something that's very depressing or anything that is concerning a little bit, I get showered with love. And I appreciate it. But I can't fully grasp it yet. See, I'm not here to lecture anybody. I'm here to tell you guys that I am in the same boat as you. And I think it's about time. It's about time that we really just fucking do something about it. Because we deserve that. I don't want to be sitting here with any ounce of jealousy towards anyone who's succeeding. Because I'm not that kind of person. And that goes for a lot of you guys too. I know some of y'all would agree when things go, you know, when a friend or a family member or whoever gets what they deserve and you want to throw them a party, you want to be there for them, you want to be like, oh my fucking God, that's fucking exciting. And all of a sudden you're like, oh, I wish that were me. It's not bad to say things like that. Oh, damn, I wish that was me too. That's not bad to say things like that. But the initial letdown, disappointment that it wasn't you, there's something up with that. Because it's trying to overtake the genuine happiness that you feel for these people. And you know that you are so happy for these people. Unless, you know, you're really not, then, you know, that's a different problem. Maybe you can talk to a therapist about that. I don't know. Okay. We're not going to touch that. Okay. You can truly embrace your happiness for others and at the same time acknowledge that this is something you want for yourself. It's redirecting that kind of energy, turning it into something a little bit more positive. So that happiness that comes from seeing others get what's for them is not always going to be associated with disappointment in yourself that you do not have the same type of success as they do. Self-love, it's a huge thing to talk about, right? There's a lot more layers to this. And for those of you who are listening to this right now, you know, if you do want to hop on the podcast and want to talk about your experiences with how you're either struggling with it or how you've managed to really find self-love, you know, feel free to message me. Feel free to reach out. You guys know where to find me. StephenDiego@hotmail.com if you really want to make it formal. Or you just find me on social media. Or you can find me on Twitch, right? But I'm about to end this because there's a lot more to talk about. And I do want to be able to, you know, split this into different episodes so that's easier for people to listen to. And maybe have people guest on it. But I just want to remind you guys, right? It's okay to be open and honest about how rotten you've been. Or how rotten you are to yourselves right now. It's not okay that you are, but it's okay to talk about it. Because that is the gateway that we need. in order for us to truly be on a better path. Because believe me when I say this, the people around you want to see you succeed. The people around you want you to find the love that you deserve. But you cannot ever hold on to any of these things if you don't love yourself first. Believe me. I will talk about it another time. But there may be people in your life that might have been affected by this whole thing that you wish you could turn back time for. But reality is, that's not how life works. But instead of beating yourselves up about it, do something better, right? Do it for you. Figure it out. Because believe me, people will always root for you. And at the end of it, you'll see that. And you'll finally accept and embrace the love that everyone has been giving you this entire time. That's all I have for today. This is longer than usual. It's 6 minutes longer than usual. Oh my God, it's probably going to be longer. But thank you so much for listening. This is Breaking Down the Breakdown. Remember, if you guys want to guest on this show, just make sure you message me. We're going to talk about it, see if there's things you want to talk about. But always remember, be compassionate. Always be kind to others. You never know what people are going through. And for you, knowing that you are going through something, we can always assume that, you know what? Maybe people are a certain way because they're also fighting their own demons. And it does not cost anything at all to be kind to others. That's something I also want to talk about, because there has been some people that has been really getting on my nerves. Whew. But we won't talk about this today. But I think you guys will know what I'm talking about when it comes to being kind. But this has been Breaking Down the Breakdown. I love you all. And I hope to see y'all soon. Talk to you soon. But goodbye.